God, but rather he saw himself as the harbor of the Christ, and he realized that. But that did not start 2,000 years ago. That started millennia ago. Read an article this week about the fairy tales that we are used to telling our children. And the fairy tales we think of as originating, in the first millennia, beginning of the second millennia, captured by Brothers Grimm and other writers in the 16th and 17th centuries. But it appears that such tales as Jack and the Beanstalk go back 5,000-6,000 years. And that those stories have been told and retold and retold and retold through the oral tradition that has extended that far back. But that wasn't the beginning, right? We didn't start telling tales 6,000 years ago. We started telling tales when we could enunciate. We started telling tales of mystery and wonder back in the time when we began to communicate. And we may have even signed those tales of wonder. And so when we think of Christianity as starting 2,000 years ago, and we acknowledge that the core of Christianity is this idea of loving God with all your heart and loving your neighbor as yourself, and everything else emanates from that principle, then we have to acknowledge that, well, maybe the Buddha was aware of that. Maybe the authors of the Hindu scriptures going back 3,000, 4,000 years ago, maybe those people were aware of that. Maybe, just maybe, the understanding of the presence of love and the expression of love goes back to literally prehistory. Look, goes back to the time of conscious experience. And if that is so, then we have to let go of our arrogance that we, as followers of the teachings of Jesus, we have to let go of our arrogance that we know the answer, that we are uniquely blessed with the answer in this time and place, even in the last 2 millennia, that, truth has finally been told. I would suggest that truth has been told since we could tell. And that, letting go of that arrogance of our unique knowledge, offers us the humility of being open to new ideas and to new expressions of that love. The vessel, the conduit, and the messenger. I look upon all of us. We are all, as we have been taught, we are all vessels of the Christ. And as such, we are the vessels of that unconditional love. But it seems that we are not aware of that unconditional love. It seems that our vessel is not very full of that unconditional love. I would suggest to you that our vessel is as full as it can be of unconditional love. But the problem is that we have these stones in the vessel that are taking the space that one would expect the vessel to hold the fluid of unconditional love. We have these stones in the vessel that are decreasing our capacity as vessels of unconditional love. And what do you think those stones are made of? Come on, Course in Miracles students. What are those stones made of?
Ego thoughts.
Fear. Fear. Fear is the occupant of the vessel, keeping us from holding as much unconditional love as we can. And in the awareness that fear is the stone occupying what otherwise would be unconditional love, the question is, how do we increase our capacity for unconditional love? We dissolve the stones. Dissolving the stones is a matter of intention and, I think, experience. You know, I am greatly blessed in my life. And the blessings that I have in my life is that I have 3 grandchildren living downstairs. I have a daughter living downstairs. I am constantly surrounded by this chaos of 7 people living in 2,000 square feet. But nonetheless, last night I was lying on the bed, taking a break from doing what I do on Saturday night, and I noticed my grandson on the left of me, my granddaughter on the right of me, and my youngest granddaughter crawling all over me. She was just in such a state of hugging and squealing and laughing, and that experience was one of, oh my God. Oh my God. So I have this blessing of having these constant reminders of unconditional love that are, well, my grandson is now 10 years old and he's starting to lose his capacity for expression. No, I won't say he's losing his capacity. He's losing his intention of expressing unconditional love. But that's okay. You know, that's part of the process of separation of ego self from this embrace of family. And that is good. That provides him that independence of essence that allows him to then learn that rejoining with that unconditional love is the thing to do. But that contrast is a necessary part of our experience of life. So I'm blessed with the reminders that are often given to me of unconditional love. And the interesting thing is that we all have the opportunity to find those reminders. And when we find those reminders and feel what that feeling of unconditional love is, I mean, Mackenzie, as my youngest granddaughter, is at that stage where she's just, that's what she is. She's either screaming for food or comfort, or she's expressing unconditional love. And maybe one could argue that those are the same thing, but it's not been my experience. Anyway, so how do we increase the volume of our vessel? We use unconditional love as a means of dissolving the fear that we hold. The fear of finances, the fear of career, the fear of relationships, the fear of circumstances out in the world. We have, around our fence, we have a 6-foot-high picket fence around our backyard. And we built that picket fence around our backyard when my daughter was 3 years old, so that was 32 years ago. And the reason that we did that was because we had dogs bounding unleashed through our yards, and it was, as a parent, I was not inclined to let my 3-year-old daughter out in the backyard if I did not know about, what's going to be in the backyard. So we built the fence, and last night, in the buildup of the storm, Shannon went to call our dog in from the backyard, and she noticed a fellow right on the other side of the fence. The other side of the fence, there's a green belt, and right on the other side of the fence was this scruffy-looking fellow. He obviously was trying to find a place for shelter. It was, what did it get down to, -5 or -6 last night? I don't have a thermometer outside at my house, but I understand that it got that low. And so Shannon came in and she was concerned about this fellow that was in our backyard or right across the fence from our backyard. And I offered her a path for letting go of the fear. You know, here's a man who's frankly in a hell of a state. And Patricia has firsthand experience of this, but in a state of trying to find shelter in this blowing cold weather. Well, so dissolving the stones in our vessel will allow us to have a greater capacity for unconditional love. So the conduit. What is the conduit? I mean, we can be the vessel and not be an expression, right? We can be the vessel and we can decide not to be the expression of that unconditional love. And so the conduit is about being willing to, having the intention of expressing this unconditional love. In expressing it not just in our relationships, but expressing it in the conditions of our experience, so that we can step into the next moment with this radiance of unconditional love, allowing that unconditional love to bless the moment and bless everything in the moment. So being the conduit of unconditional love is an important part, because it allows us then to experience unconditional love. We don't experience unconditional love until it moves. And that movement of unconditional love through us, not from us, but through us into our experience, is a way then of feeling that. Having that crawling 3-year-old, 2.5-year-old, crawling and hugging and squealing 2.5-year-old is a means of stimulating that experience, but it is not the completion of that experience. The completion of that experience is when I allow myself to love that experience, right? And it's the movement of love that allows me to do that. And so we have the opportunity to be conduits, and the question is whether or not we intend to fulfill that experience by letting ourselves, allowing that flow of love to occur. And again, it does not need to be just in a relationship. It can literally be a more ephemeral experience of loving the moment unconditionally. So, the messenger. We have throughout the various religious traditions, we have people that are messengers. They're not just conduits. They're not just those that give themselves unconditionally in relationships, unconditionally in service, unconditionally in the experience. But we have messengers. And the difference between a conduit and a messenger is that the messenger is empowering others to have that experience. So that as a messenger, what you're doing is you're inspiring others to have that experience of unconditional love. There's a management, I made it most of the way through. There is a management, I'm looking for my clicker. Where's my clicker? Who took my clicker? Where did my clicker go? I'm afraid that my clicker, oh, there it is, under a pile of paper. That makes sense. Okay, so there's this management consultant. His name is Lance. Could you give me the next slide, Monica? In my final edits, I deleted that slide. So being an inspiration is about Go up. Okay. Well, I thought I deleted that slide as well. Anyway, so being an inspiration is first of all facing challenges. Looking upon your experience and seeing something that needs to be done, stepping into it and doing it. Allowing yourself to win trust. Win trust, and winning trust is about declaring your intentions and following through with your intentions. And this is really a step for inspiring leadership. But inspiring leadership is as applicable in our personal lives, in our activities within our experience as it is for someone who has the intention of, quote, being a leader. Inspiring confidence by letting people know that they are empowered to do what they are attempting to do, offering them direction if necessary, offering them tools if that is appropriate, but allowing your interaction with other people to inspire their confidence so that they're not relying upon you, but they're in fact seeing themselves as being capable of performing whatever it is. Being authentic, being yourself, not trying to be someone else, not trying to put on airs, not trying to do what others expect you to do, but rather to do what you are called to do, that calling being an internal calling. Earning respect, following through, being someone that can be relied upon, and staying curious. Staying curious is oftentimes a difficult task because we come to a comfortable awareness. We come to a state of knowledge where we think, okay, got it. I can now write my book. And allowing yourself to wait and realize that, well, maybe there's something else that I can find out. Maybe there's something else I can learn. There was an article that, in fact, I posted in Facebook, so some of you may have seen it or at least been aware of it. And there was it's called A New Theory of Everything. And it talks about the physicist, the task of the physicist to find the answers to the questions that are posed by the evidence that is observed. So there is a condition here in the physical world, and that condition stimulates a question, how did that occur? And then the task of the physicist in the traditional sense would be to find the answer to that. And this approach kind of turned that upside down, turned it on its head, and talked about finding all the questions that would result in the answer that is shown by the evidence that is observed. Finding all the questions that would, where the answer would be the evidence. So that idea of finding all the questions is a different way of approaching the realization of what is real, what reality is made up of. And so staying curious is not necessarily about finding the answers to questions that are posed, but rather finding the questions that will result in the answer, or that the answer is a response to, okay? Finding all the questions. And finding all the questions really starts to expand our awareness, expand our ability to stay curious. Staying curious allows us to expand our awareness, expand our perceptions, expand our capacity. And when we are thinking about ourselves as a vessel, staying curious is going to expand that vessel. Staying curious is going to allow us to look upon ways that we can be not just the conduit, but the inspiration. To be the messenger of unconditional love, not just the giver of unconditional love. To be the inspiration that empowers others to realize unconditional love in their life. To be not just the vessel, but to be the conduit. And not to be just the conduit, but themselves to be the messenger. And it is that way that we will transform our experience and we will transform our society to be the practitioners of unconditional love. And it's up to us. It is our charge to be the change. If you would, Monica, the video, please. I don't know what that is. That was last week. That should have disappeared. Are we doing video? Okay. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. So our test was not complete. Do you have that split screen active again in PowerPoint? We'll have to forego it. Being the, you have it?
Yep.
All right, let's see it. That's interesting. There it is. There it is. There it is. We're cooking.
Now, some of the things that's going to happen when you look out and see what can I contribute to, what can I give? I guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have a voice that's saying, it's just no use. It's out of control now. There will be a voice telling you that
Lights.
you'll be wasting your time and wasting your energy and wasting your effort. I say, don't listen to it. Listen to that still small voice that says, I can do something, and I ought to do it. We ought.
We suspect that our that our router is being used externally. I thought that we had solved that problem last week. Let's kill it. So it's the inspiration that you are empowering others to be the expression of unconditional love. You are the agent of change. You are the ones that can bring that which you envision for the greater good to come into being. It is you that has that power. We'll have our meditation. As we come into a meditation, let us come in with our Catholic. As we breathe into this moment and allow ourselves to be open to the receiving of this unconditional love directly from the heart of God. We offer our intention of letting that unconditional love fill us. And as it is filling us, we open ourselves to acknowledging and identifying those stones of fear that reside within us. Those stones of fear that keep us from the expression of unconditional love. In this space, in this quiet space, we see those fears, we allow those fears to dissolve in the experience of seeing the baby smile, or seeing person asking for a donation receiving it, or any other of the multitude of opportunities we have in our experience of seeing unconditional love flash through and transform the moment, if only a moment, transforming that moment. And as we witness that, we will experience it. And so our practice may be to be open to, acknowledge those stones of fear, and intentionally bring the experience of unconditional love to them, dissolving them, seeing them disappear from our vessel, allowing our vessel to fill to its capacity. Feel how that feels. See how that feeling of love, of unconditional love, transforms this moment. Acknowledge that you have the power, regardless of the circumstances surrounding you. You have the power to offer this experience of unconditional love in this moment. Feeling yourself to be the vessel. Opening the valve to be the conduit. And intentionally inspiring and empowering others to their realization that they are the vessel, they are the conduit, they are the messenger. And in this awareness, we come back into this time and space, sharing the words of Hallelujah. Hallelujah.